All right, welcome everybody. This is the next episode of the Free Thought Doctrine. I'm your host, or your co-host, Aaron Burr, or recording out of San Diego, California.
And I'm Blake Lincoln from the always sunny, not state of Minnesota.
Nice, warm, and cozy, huh?
Yes, very.
All right, so this is our second episode. One of the topics I want to get into right off the bat is I want to expand further on the whole divide that's going on right now. We talked about unity in the last episode, but I kind of want to explore and expand on the division that's going on right now. Just kind of highlight some certain things I see. And one thing I've noticed is that the way that the right and the left react to the lockdowns is already a huge signifier. Say you did not even know what someone's leanings were, whether it was right or left or whatever. One indicator, I guarantee you, at least for most people, is going to be how they react. And what I mean is, the way I've seen it is both sides equally are angry about lockdowns, right? No one's happy about it, right? But what I noticed is the difference in how they react. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is when, say, the topic comes up, like, hey, they're going to reinstate some lockdowns. Here in San Diego, they have like different colored tiers, like purple tier is what we're in right now, and that's a lot more, restricted. And when people are bringing that up, you could see the way people react. So someone who might be more right leaning, like myself, like us, we're gonna direct our anger right towards the government officials, the governor, the mayor, the people running the place, right? While people on left leaning side of things, they're gonna blame the people, right? Like the reaction I've seen is usually like, "Oh, come on, people, get it together. Oh, come on, people. People need to start wearing their masks." And this is what happens when people don't social distance. Now we got to go back into a lockdown. Like their automatic default response is to the public, to the citizens, to the people, right? They see it completely differently. Like we see it as, hey, these lockdowns are not taking care of the issue at hand, and I point at the government for that. Like, what they're forcing this upon us, while they see it as, hey, these people keep screwing up, and therefore that's why the government has to step in. Do you see that any differently or whatever?
No, it's virtually just how you said it. I've seen the exact same thing, and my theory is that a lot of the people that blame people and don't think that it's anybody else's fault, but people that aren't social distancing and aren't wearing a mask are people that have been kind of grown and raised to love government. Like the government can do no wrong. They are the experts. They know what's best for everybody. They can't help it. It's just the way they've been taught. Are there people not wearing masks and social distancing? Yeah, but is that really the real problem for any of this? No, it's really about out of control government, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't see it that way.
Yeah, they see it as more of a like this life and death kind of thing, and it's weird because if you look at COVID and we all, and here's the one thing too, like whenever you talk about COVID, it's like you have to give this preface of, oh, okay, of course I'm not a doctor, PD, whatever it's called, right? But like, therefore I cannot have no opinion whatsoever. No, it's, we could also use common sense. You know what I'm saying? And when you do look at the numbers, when you go to the CDC, which I don't really trust the CDC as far as I can throw a rock, but at the same time, if these are the people they also point to, and when they say that you essentially have a 99.996 or 7 or wherever you fall in percentage of beating COVID, and you see that the flu is far more deadlier for younger populations, right, especially kids, then are you, do we do all these things for the flu? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. For the same people that go, people need to get it together. Like, did you have that attitude with the flu the last you
It's
know?
more than, yeah, you're right about the flu. I mean, the flu, there's new strains of flu every year. People still die from the flu every year. Yeah, we get vaccinated, but guess what? Vaccines don't work 100%. Um, it's just, and it's more than that because not every year we don't have, on the local news, we don't have a flu death count going
Exactly.
across the screen.
Hmm.
It seems to me it's more than just uh, keeping people safe at this point. There's way more to it than that.
Well, there's way more to it than that. I mean, here's the fact of the situation, right? Is lockdowns do not stop COVID. Lockdowns do not stop COVID. Lockdowns do not stop a virus, right? They don't do it. It
No, but
will not
they
stop it.
do a lot of other things. They cause businesses to go bankrupt. They cause suicide numbers to skyrocket. They cause
Depression.
marital financial strain. They cause depression. I mean, you're looking at the tip of the iceberg is, oh, we have to stay inside. But if you really look underneath the water there's a whole lot of things that lockdowns do achieve, and none of them are positive.
Well, if you remember at the beginning of the whole coronavirus situation, remember it was the 15 days to what was it, slow the spread. 15 days to slow the spread. Well, we're looking at like 245 days at this point. You know what I'm saying? So the point is that lockdowns, they don't stop the virus. If anything, they might slow it down, but really you're just kicking the can down the road, right? That's why there's going to be these continual rolling lockdowns because they just continually are kicking the can down the road. It's not getting rid of anything. And
Another thing, sorry to cut you off there,
no
but just
problem.
another point of what you said there. You know, when you're indoors and you don't go outside, guess what happens? When you're not exposed to everyday human contact, your own immune system will go down,
Yep.
and that just when you do eventually go back outside, guess what's going to happen? You're
You're more
going to get
vulnerable.
sick.
Yeah, this whole notion that we could eradicate germs and diseases by simply staying indoors is one of the most outrageous things I've ever heard of. Right.
It
And
doesn't
and,
work.
and, and here's the thing is I will make a correction here because I did make a mistake. Lockdowns do work, right? In certain if the government is willing to kill its own citizens, then lockdowns do work. I mean, look at
Oh
China,
yeah, that's
right?
true.
In China,
Yeah.
they held people, they bolted people inside of their homes at gunpoint, and these people weren't able to, get food or water or any essentials, and they died, right?
They did the same with SARS too, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So these authoritarian regimes, they were, yes, okay, I'll give you that. They were able to stop it, right, by literally killing their own citizens. So yes, okay, lockdowns do work in that sense, but uh, this is not China, at least not yet, right? As much as they're trying to do that, and that's kind of my point because if you go back and in the last episode we've mentioned it, the last couple episodes where they are using coronavirus or these lockdowns they're using fear, right, from the virus, to basically drive the economy down so bad, right? They want to force medium income, lower, upper medium, lower income individuals, families, businesses into the public dole, right? Like, and if all you got to do is look at history, and you see that socialist and Marxist revolutions always come out of poverty, and
Of course.
they're trying to create this climate of this like poverty stricken, climate, so they could push and look at all the liberties that we're just losing left and right? Like
Mhm.
in a lot of states, people can't even celebrate Thanksgiving with extended family or whatever, right? Like you can't have
Well,
certain people over. You could only have so many people at your house, and you have to do this and you have to do that, and it has to be outdoors, and you go do the. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many. They're using the fear, right, of COVID to literally just strip you of your rights, and then you have, like I was saying, it's like you have people on the left leaning who not only accept that, but then they point the finger and ridicule and mock people for even questioning that, right? Or not doing that per se, right? Like, oh, see, people just need to get it together. See,
it
like,
just reminds me of one of Ben Franklin's quotes. It's one of my favorites, and that is, "If you make yourselves sheep, the wolves will eat you." And that's exactly what's happening. And
absolutely, yeah.
it's disturbing. You talked about people giving up their rights. To me, is what's even more disturbing is how easily they're giving it all up. Like people are accepting this, like it's okay.
They're
And then
accepting exactly. They're accepting it, and then other people are selling them out when people don't want to accept it or accept it fully.
and then like even this is probably paraphrasing, but he said something similar to this. But Dr. Fauci again was on TV, and like they're not even hiding it anymore. He said something about, America has a very independent spirit, but it's time to shut up and do as you're told. He said
Exactly.
something to
No,
that
I heard
extent, I
that. You're right.
believe.
He did say that. He definitely did say that. Like,
And to me, it's like, really, like this, they're not even hiding it anymore. They're point blank saying these authoritarian things, and people are just laying down and accepting it, and it's really weird to see. Like, wow, have we really forgotten, who we are? We're just
well,
gonna
well,
lay
the thing
down.
is, the thing is, again, I mean, from what I've seen, is for the most part, we're talking about left-leaning people, right? Like they are the ones who are 100% accepting this, right? They believe in every single little tiny thing they hear that's being put out by the media and the government about this stuff, right? Like they don't even question it at all. In fact, they, make fun of people that do question it, right? They
Yeah,
open and like I've literally seen memes that are spiraling out in the viral, going viral, and it's literally making fun of people for caring about civil liberties, right? Like it's literally making fun of people for, caring about civil liberties. Like,
which is ironic because uh, that's all they could talk about during the Obama years is all about civil liberties.
well,
Uh,
not just the
for
Obama years. Like, they've been, I would say, for the last like 40, 50 years.
Well, yeah, but I
Yeah,
was I was thinking more recently. But yeah, you're correct. It's always been about civil liberties, but now that they all have their way, the shoe's on the other foot, and you're seeing their true colors.
that's what I'm saying. The left used to be all about free speech and civil liberty. Like those are things they championed, right?
Yep.
They'd accuse the right of not caring about those things, right? Like they look at the '90s with like rap music and all this stuff, and like music videos, and they're all about free speech, right? You go back to like the civil rights era and stuff. There's a lot of civil liberty issues there that the left was all about. But now they will openly point the finger at you and laugh at you when you bring up civil liberty issues as they pertain to coronavirus and the lockdowns. Right? They think we're fools for even caring about that stuff, for worrying about these certain things. Because to them, the fear's been so, they bought into the fear so much that they are more than willing to, give in to all the restrictions. Like they openly want it, and then they openly make fun of people that have a problem with it. They either make fun of them, or they look down on them, or they think they're denying science or whatever. But it
Yeah.
just blows my mind. I'm kind of like in shock. Like this is the divide I'm talking about, right? This is the
Yep.
divide. There is one half that you openly question these situations where these governors and mayors and these local governments, and potentially with Biden in office, national government, coming down in the name of safety of of a virus, we will strip you of these basic civil liberties, right? And really, it really does fall in line to how you look, how these socialist revolutions and these fascist governments, they didn't just appear out of nowhere in these societies, right? They didn't just, it wasn't like they woke up one day and boom, you're living under a dictator. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, it usually comes from chaos.
exactly, out of order, out of chaos, right? Out of maximum chaos comes maximum order.
It's exactly what happened in Western Europe in the lead up to World War II. For example, was it Francisco Franco in Spain?
Yep. Yep.
Before he decided to come in and take over, it was literally just communists and fascists killing each other in the streets. It was an all-out brawl. And he decided to come in and take it over. Same with what's another example? The French Revolution.
French Revolution, the Bolshevik
Chaos,
Revolution.
the chaos. Napoleon came in. Yep, Bolshevik. Lenin came in. It's
Exactly.
every single time a dictator rears its ugly head. Every single time they take advantage of the chaos.
Exactly. So if you look at even recent history, for members out there, audience members out there, look up Cloward Piven, right? Look up Saul Alinsky, right? These are Marxist professors who came up with, like, Cloward Piven essentially was overload and overwhelm the system to the point that it's at a breaking point, so that therefore the government must swoop in and save the situation by, enacting extreme, authoritarian. I'll never say this word, but you know what I'm talking about, and complete, control of the situation. And really, you look at the Corona lockdown. You look at, the riots that were going on. The identity politics and the race issues, and then look at the current election results, right? With all this chaos, it's like you have two Americas right there. You have two different realities. You have one half, it's like, hey, the election's still going on. There's a legal process or whatever, and then there's another reality on the other side. It's like, hey, yeah, Biden won, and this is how it's going to be, right? And these are the things that are going to happen, and they're not talking to each other, right? It's just like there's two completely different realities going on at the exact same time, right?
Yeah, and to be clear, like this didn't just happen. And a lot of people like to say that this happened during the Trump years, and that's completely
No,
inaccurate.
that's
This divide has been deepening for years.
Yes.
I would argue that it really opened up during the Obama administration. Quite frankly, that's when it really got bad. Unfortunately, now it is getting worse, and it's all for the reasons you said. There's it's completely different points of view on everything, really, especially the coronavirus, like we were talking about.
Well, the thing is, like, it's exactly, you're right. It's been going on for years. It definitely started to accelerate during the Obama years, super accelerated during the Trump years, and a lot of that has to do with social media for sure, right? Facebook, Twitter. It just makes it so much worse. And
I'd like to point out too that you mentioned identity politics. That's had a lot to do with it too, dividing and turning everybody into, or looking at each other through the prism of what group or they belong in, whether it be gender, race, etc. That I think that certainly has caused the divide to deepen as well.
definitely, I mean, that it's all part of the plan. Because see, look here, at the end of the day, it's really the corrupt power class versus the working people, right? It's the dominant liberal regime versus everybody else. Like,
Yep.
Really, they're puppeteers, and they're just playing us off each other, right? Like, you look at the election, right? Like, with the way the election went down, the results, and hey, there's fraud, and there wasn't fraud, and there was, and there is, and there was. it's just feeding into this, this division, right?
They want us to be divided.
It's divide and conquer. It's divide and conquer. You're like they're literally puppeteers, and they're sitting here just like falling victim to their BS, basically.
Pulling
right?
everybody's strings.
Yeah, it's
the more divided we are, the more power they have.
Exactly, and
it's all good for them.
And the thing is that they don't understand is that it's both parties. It's both parties, right? It's the Democrats and it's Republicans. Because at the end of the day, they're the exact same thing, right? They are the Republicans are just as corrupt as the Democrats, and the Democrats are just as corrupt as the Republicans. And the thing is, there's a lot of people that I know, right, that on the right, that they think that the Republican Party is the conservative party, right? And newsflash, it's not, right? It does not have your best interest at hand, right? It doesn't care about you, right? So, nor does the Democrats care about their people either, right?
Which is, well, for an example of that, like, you hear the GOP constantly complaining about big tech, Google, Facebook, Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But they never do anything about it. You know why that is? Because just like the Democrats,
they're funded.
They also get their money from big tech. They're bought and paid for too. Hate to say it, but that's the reality.
Yeah, both parties are owned by Wall Street and big tech, right?
Absolutely.
It's corrupt power elite.
It's not even debatable. That's fact.
It is, and it's sad that you see people on both sides who blindly vote and support each party, completely oblivious to these facts, right?
Yep.
Like,
we're all, and then we use that ideology to turn on one another. Meanwhile, they're both sides. They're all making money. They don't care.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's the corrupt power elite versus the working people of this country, and it probably goes around like that around the world, right? It's the global deep state, if you will. So, now, one thing, last time we talked about unity, really real healing and coming together. But I admit, when I sat back and started thinking about this division, how the left and right are split, how this split is being fed from above, like we're puppets, right? Like it is hard. Like you essentially have one half, just in general now, right? You have one half of the country who, you have like the right side, the right leaning side that, they believe in America, right? They believe in America, and one side that, thinks that we're fundamentally they fundamentally want to change America because from its roots it's been evil, essentially, right? Like it's kind of like what you mentioned before on a previous episode where, used to have these issues and the Republicans and Democrats would make the case for how to approach certain problems and issues, right? And they debate back and forth and you'd come to a compromise. That's essentially how it was. I don't think it was ever perfectly like that, but that was kind of the idea.
No, that was the idea.
It
went pretty well for several decades.
It did.
Almost an entire century, really.
Yeah. But the problem now is, like I said, like you have one side that believes in America, that is, proud of America's past, that recognizes the progress we've made, and, wants to, we want to make it better where we can, but we've accepted certain realities, right? While the other side completely rejects the whole idea of America. To them, it's just this evil, racist, bigoted country that, one side believes, the country started in 1776, and the other believes it started in 1619. You know what I'm saying? One side believes that this country is based off principles of liberty, freedom, and limited government, and the other side it's based off slavery and subjugation. You know what I'm saying?
And I mean, to be fair to them, that's all they know is because that's what they've been taught in school.
Exactly.
Which is a major problem as well. And we can talk about that in a future episode.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it for a moment right now, right? Mm. So, because the thing is, a lot of the people I'm talking about are in our age group, right? There's plenty of them that are, in the younger age group, but there's definitely a lot of people in their 30s that went through the same system, right? And like, yes, education for sure, but at the same time, we both went to public schools, right? You went to public schools.
Yep.
Yep, and then we both went to college, right?
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, we went through the whole system, but we weren't completely, we're not, we weren't bought at all by these leftist ideologies. You know what I'm
and what's
saying?
funny for me is, like you mentioned, college. That's usually where they get indoctrinated. And for me personally, the opposite happened, where I had some of these classes, especially I took some American history classes, and I'm just sitting there listening to these professors, and I'm just like, this is a bunch of crap. I'm paying for this. What? If anything, it pushed me more in the opposite direction of what they wanted. It woke me up to how problematic our upper education system is. There's a real problem there.
Oh yeah, no, I had a very similar experiences where I'd be sitting there in class and they'd be pushing, only one version of events, if you will, right? Luckily, I did have some professors that would actually even point that out, right? But on the exact same note, I took some environmental classes where they showed inconvenient truth like it was the Bible, right? So,
Yep.
and the thing is, to even make any headway in that class, it was essentially agree 100% or they're gonna fail you kind of thing, right? Like that was basically how it went. But the thing is, I was aware of the situation, so that's why, yes, we use that excuse all the time, right? It's the education system, and I agree.
But it
The
really
education,
is, though.
it is. But what I'm saying is, at the exact same time, people like you and me went through it, and we were not bought and sold into that belief system. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know what it is.
No,
But
there's a case to be made about critical thinking and thinking for oneself, which everybody should do. Just not even politically. Just
in general,
never don't follow the masses. Just you're blessed with a brain. We are the smartest species on Earth. Use your brain and think for yourself. Not
big
everybody you follow or look up to is right about everything. It is
exactly.
okay to have your opinions that go against the grain. That's perfectly natural.
And that's why, kind of spinning this back around to how we do need to come together. I mean, I think the divide is huge. It is huge. When you literally have one half the country that, hey, the problem with these lockdowns are the fascist governors and these fascist mayors, and they're a bunch of petty tyrants side, and the other side, it's all these stupid people they're not wearing their freaking masks, and they're not social distancing, and they're throwing these big parties. You know what I'm saying? When the division is that great, how do we come together and unite? And we've discussed before. I think dialogue does have a lot to play there. But one thing I do hopefully am wanting or wishing to happen, and I've kind of see it been going on a little bit, is I think it's time to have a conservative counterculture, right? And what do I mean by that is there are people on the left, because I've met them and I've seen them, who are tired of the whole, wokeism and the woke cult, right? They're tired of the whole identity politics, right? And these super far left progressives. And they are at least willing to listen. At least they're starting to. I'm not saying that they're right wing conservatives all of a sudden, but what I'm saying is they are willing to at least listen, right?
Yeah.
They're willing to go against the grain, like you were saying.
Just
And
commons, like looking at situations and being able to figure out, like, hey, something doesn't add up here. This isn't right.
exactly, like there was it just reminded me randomly of something I saw. I was watching, or I was listening to another show the other day, and they had a reference to, I believe what's his name, Thomas Sowell, right? He's like a conservative.
Thomas Sowell, yeah.
Thomas Sowell,
Yep.
right? So yes, uh, he was on a show. I think it might have been Dave Rubin's show. I forget now. And he's an economist, he's a professor, and he's a big time conservative, right? He's one of the intellectuals on the right,
Highly intelligent man.
highly intelligent, right? And so, I believe it was Dave Rubin or whoever it was, the host of that interview. He was basically in an interview, and because they said to him like, "Hey, you used to be a big time lefty, right? Like you were a Marxist. Like how did you come onto the right?" And he said, "Facts." Right? So sometimes just looking at certain facts, right, can at least cause someone to, at the bare minimum, to at least be willing to listen to the other side if they are really stuck on one side of an issue, right? So I do think there are people that are starting to come over to the right. And one thing I'll point at, too, that just kind of hit me in the head was the fact that at least the exit polling, for what it's worth, showed that, there were a lot more minorities, like we've discussed, right, that voted for Trump, right? So maybe that pendulum is slowly starting to swing to the right. But
And yeah,
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna make a quick point. Like, Democrat Party, it's all rich white people, ironically. I
It
mean,
is.
well, both parties really, but especially nowadays, it seems that the Democrat Party is completely rich white elitists. But anyway, back to your point.
No, well,
Sorry.
no. Expanding on that point, I mean, here's just something that's anecdotal, but I know that when I've gone into predominantly white, rich neighborhoods, at least here in California, when I've just like happened to drive through them or whatever, let me tell you one thing: I don't see Trump signs in those neighborhoods, but
No,
I
absolutely not.
do see, or I did see Biden Harris signs, and I did see BLM signs, right?
Yep.
So I mean, just something to think about. But when it does come to unity, like we're talking about, and how we do need to come together, I do hope that more of those people who are of the left, or at least formerly of the left, do sway the side. I do think that on the right, we need to, welcome these people in. And like I said, if anything, we need to have a count, what was the term?
Counter revolution or
Yeah,
counterculture.
a counter conservative culture, right?
Yeah.
And I think we could bring them in. The thing is, a lot of these people are being driven away by zealots on the left, right? Like
Yeah.
the zealotry of the left is what's driving them towards the center and towards the right. So my only thing is that I think it's our responsibility as conservatives and conservative libertarians and with conservative media is not to scare them away, right? I'm not saying we need to BS them, like always say the truth, but I think there are certain things, like I know that a lot of moderates, especially on the left, they view like highly religious people as zealots too. Now, I don't agree that highly religious people are zealots, but um, maybe not.
Religion does turn people
It
off.
does. It does.
I have an ex-girlfriend who, by all other cases, she was really identified more with libertarian values, but the fact that she just, for whatever reason, she had it in her head that all conservatives were conservative Christian zealots, and she believed that in her heart of hearts, and there was nothing I could do to change her mind.
And,
And
and exactly, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot of people. I mean, like I said, if you look at the left traditionally, and they're all about free speech and civil liberty, right?
yeah,
So,
sure.
well, I'm just saying, like a lot of them were, right? So, like,
Used to be, yeah.
well, the party isn't anymore. But all I'm saying is, these people are waking up to the
Oh,
fact that,
okay.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the people. I'm talking about the demographic of people that I'm centering around right now, right? Are the people that are waking up to the zealotry of the left.
Right.
Right? These people always did actually believe in free speech and civil liberty. And that's why they're rejecting the zealotry of the left and this progressive wokeness, right? And that's why they're willing to slide at least to our side, or at least give us, a fair shake. But at the same time, a lot of those people are probably, I'm willing to bet that a lot of those people that actually did believe in free speech and civil liberty, and you got to think, one reason they probably were on the left is because they thought the religious right was coming down and locking down on, free speech and civil liberties, right? Like in their heads, it was a fascist religious right, right? That's how they like frame it in their heads. They're the ones coming on after the civil liberties, but now I think they're seeing that these zealots on the left are the ones coming after their civil liberties and censoring free speech and stuff like that, and that's why they're willing to slide over here. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is we should not, at least not let them feel like they're trading one zealotry for another zealotry. You know what I'm saying? Like we are the side of civil liberty and free speech, right? We're not the side of any zealotry, right? So that's why I say open hands, open hugs, come over here. We celebrate free speech. We celebrate free thought. We celebrate civil liberties. We don't poke and make fun of people when we're worried about civil liberties when it comes to lockdown. We don't point at the people that live in your communities when it comes to lockdowns. We direct our anger at fascist, tyrant dictators. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I would just say we are the point of free speech, like you said, but also I would say reason and common sense. Logic. Just being able, like I said, thinking for yourself. You don't have to. Not everybody has to agree with you, but being able to use your own brain and consider the facts for yourself. That's huge. It goes a long way, and we need to get back to that too. And that's definitely something that we support.
Exactly, and so that's my point is, we embrace these principles, and so I'm asking to those on the left, if you're waking up to what's going on, with the woke cult and woke culture, if you reject that whole notion of living between these very rigid lines, and you're more about freedom of the individual, come unite with us, right? Come unite with us. And that's all I really have to say. Blake, is there anything else you want to say?
No, again, just to add on what I said last time, is just need to really just be more civil to one another. I think if somebody has a different point of view than you, instead of like laughing at them or calling them an idiot or whatever, maybe challenge them a little bit. Like, well, why do you think that? Let them come to their own conclusions. Maybe while they're explaining their belief, they might get caught up in the fact that they really don't believe that at all. Just encourage people to think for themselves, and we need to continue to have free speech and fair debate. And I think a lot of these problems can be fixed. I don't know when. Could take a long time, but I think as long as everybody's just civil toward each other, I think that could go a long way.
Civility. I think civility go a very long way in these trying times, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed what we had to say. Hopefully, you're able to keep up with it. Meaning, hopefully, I wasn't being confusing or anything like that. And I thank for everybody for listening and continuing to support the show. You guys have been listening to the Free Thought Doctrine, and we'll see you later.